6, 4, 2. Okay, I got the key card. Ah! Damn it! I need the ace key. I left it back in the fucking safe. I gotta go back and get it, man. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the mansion. Hopefully, you don't have any plans of running away. And don't open that door, because we're here for Heaven's Dust. So this is part of the Heaven Dust collection on the Switch. Of course, physical is pretty much 99.9% of the stuff we'll review. But they were originally sold as separate games, as this is a collection of 2 games, and I will be reviewing them on an individual basis. But be aware they are from the collection that Super Whale Games released. So, as mentioned, this is on the Switch, and it is a fairly interesting little throwback to the old survival horror game era of the PS1 Dreamcast kind of era, but at the same time, it doesn't play 100% like that, and we'll get into that. So first, let's talk about the story of Heaven Dust 1. So Heaven Dust 1, you'll start as a nameless character. You don't know anything about your character as the player, but this character is stuck in this mansion and decides it's time to get the fuck out of it. It's infested with zombies, and you don't want to be a part of it anymore, so you are planning your way out. Unlucky for you, you happen to have little to nothing, and you're going to have to find your way through all the insanity of the mansion. If you're familiar with horror games from back then, you'll feel right at home when it comes to exploring and puzzles. These are certainly the elements that the game draws nostalgia the most on, because the actual gameplay isn't, though. Because while it is a survival horror game, and the puzzles and setting and that all set up very similar to those kind, it doesn't play in a tank control style. It is a third-person, top-down view. Like, over there, well, you're not playing over the shoulders, but I mean, like, it's a top-down view game. So, your character just moves in the direction you choose with your analog stick. You ready your gun, and when the enemy is within view, you'll have a target now and then you just start firing. So there's not really a whole lot to the element of the playing, but the managing your inventory, ammo, and your healing items is something that does. Now, you don't have a bazillion guns like in most Resident Evil games. You just have your freaking handgun. Though you can also upgrade it later on if you happen to figure out one of the more cryptic secrets in the game. Plus, along with finishing the game, you do unlock a few extra goodies, like a lot of Resident Evil games did, for overcoming challenges in the game itself, and that you can get a few extra goodies for new games that give you things like infinite ammo and the ability to be more stealthy and less noticeable and such. Using similar healing items like herbs and med kits and such, you can, take care of your character. Now, something that is very different in this game is money. So money is not really a thing in most survival horror games too often. A few that come to mind would be like Blue Stinger in Resident Evil 4. And, was there a purchasing system in 5? I don't think there was there? I think there was just like a side storage thing. I can't quite remember. I think maybe there was in 5. I can't quite remember. Actually, 5 is that forgivable, kids. Anyway, point is, there is a money system. You will find tokens either scouted about the mansion or off of zombies. Now, these are all limited, so you do want to spend them smartly. Now, you will find vending machines that will spit out things for you. Obviously, supplies, things like gunpowder to make more ammo, are useful. You can find maps. You can also get what is different skills. Now, these just enhance things like the Man vs. Wild, making you move faster. These can be stored in your chest to retain their there are effects on you, and there are several of these that affect different things like your power, healing, and such. Nice little bonuses, but they are a little bit pricey on the tokens, so they probably ain't going to be the first thing you buy, but something you want to get down the road as you build up tokens. You can also get rumors that give you hints and tips about passages and stashes and things. These you can technically just save scum, you know, save, look at, then reload. Probably better that way so you get the most out of your tokens, you know. Yeah, but that's up to you. I didn't get any of these rumors, so But spend your tokens as you feel freely, as you'll find multiple vending machines with multiple things to buy from them. But be aware, these are one time. You can't just like, oh look, gunpowder, I'm gonna buy more gunpowder. Nope. If the vending machine has one thing of gunpowder, you buy it, that one thing of gunpowder is gone. So, there is limited supply, just like most survival horror games, so be cautious on how you spend your ammo. Unless you got the infinite gun in a new game, then, you know, go crazy then. Now, I did mention running earlier. So, running, there was no stamina system. Simply, to run, you need to face the same direction for a few seconds, and your character will start dashing faster. Obviously, with the manvos as well, this is even faster, which is, of course, useful. But it is a little finicky, because if you even just move the analog stick just slightly, you will mess up the one. So it does need you to have a very still thumb on the direction you're holding. So it can be a little finicky, but if you got working or master it, you can obviously make use of it if getting around zombies, because, you know, obviously, especially if you're playing harder, you're going to have to need to spare that ammo, you know. Speaking of difficulty, the game doesn't actually have a difficulty mode. Instead, it has an achievement system. Yes, you did hear that. Achievements. This is the Switch version, so these are built-in game achievements. Now, these achievements are basically your difficulty. If you want to do any of them, they will increase your difficulty. For example, Hardcore finished the game in 2 hours. Zombie Hunter, kill 50 zombies. Finish the game with at least 100 unused ammo. These challenges will be what set your difficulty. So these are set opposed, obviously. So there's also ones like Body of Steel, finish without healing. There's also Iron Will, without loading your save file. So you have to finish the game basically in one go. So these are your difficulty modifiers, and those are how you're going to do that, essentially. Otherwise, there is no set difficulty for the game, so all the ammo and everything is always going to be the same. Now, this was originally a PC game, and from what I understand, it was a Korean-developed game, which did lead to a few things in the issues to bring up. These are all pretty minor things, but things to note. Sometimes there were weird effects with some doors getting stuck. Not a big deal. There's also a weird time where sometimes it's like the game double presses at times. I personally experienced this a lot on the vending machines, so be careful how you purchase things, as you could accidentally purchase, since you use the same button to interact and purchase. So sometimes I would go into a vending machine and automatically just buy whatever the cursor starts on, which was a bit annoying, but not in the end of the world. As I said, from what I understand, this was a Korean-developed game, so there are some grammatical things you can point out that are a little off-putting. Not the end of the world, though, however, this was originally a PC game. You would think such a thing would always have been addressed when bringing it over to the Switch, but apparently not. Now, I did encounter a spot that I think you could potentially get soft-locked in. There's a building with a virus scanner, and if you don't have a particular item that you need to make a shortcut out of the building, you can essentially be stuck in the building. If you were to activate how to get around the value scanner, grab the item and go through the door prior to acknowledging what it needs to do, you could end up locked inside the building, and without the item to open the way of connecting the building with the outside world, as far as I can tell, you would end up trapped in the building. So that's something to keep in mind. I also encountered a weird effect with the elevator, the small elevator in the final area, where it kept like going up and down, stuck in the middle. I was able to waggle out of it, and I only had it happen one time, but it was kind of a bizarre thing. But otherwise, I didn't encounter any problems with any of the puzzles or anything. Some other minor things is sometimes when entering and exiting rooms, sometimes there's kind of like a little bit of a freeze stutter, and that, I would assume, is the game loading and deloading things probably around your environment. So that is probably what it is. I'm not really sure. It just could be a little but not a big deal. And also to throw out, though, I would say if you have stick drift issues with any of your Switch controllers specifically, is note when you hold your gun out and the move analog stick is nubbed even a little, it will take you out of aiming your gun. So don't recommend having any left stick drift in this game, or you will have a very bad time trying to fight the monstrosities that are in your environment. Now, Heaven Dust 1 doesn't feature a lot of enemy types or anything. You just have zombies that are in different kind of outfits of that, and then the final boss. So you don't have a lot of variety. This is a very simple survival horror game. Now, admittedly, the sequel really expands a lot of things. The items, guns, enemy variety, and different ways of combating and dealing with them, while retaining many similar horror elements from the era that it's clearly drawing nostalgic from. Now, as I said, you don't have a lot of guns. You just have your handgun unless you unlock additional ones in the new game. But you do still have lots of collectible items, keys, key cards, and other crap that you use to solve puzzles along with all your healing items. So similarly to the old Resident Evil games, you do have a magical shifting storage box that you can access in several different places. Otherwise, it's pretty down to the basics of the genre it's pulling from. I like the game, but I can understand it maybe being a bit simple for some people. But as far as I know, this was this individual's first game, as far as I'm aware of. And considering the few problems Willie found with the game, I think they hit pretty out of the park, honestly. I think they did a very nice job for their first title, as far as I'm aware of. So, if you're really scratching for that old nostalgia for a survival horror game, or just something simple that draws from that era but isn't insanely overcomplicated as many of the long surviving series from that era have became, get Heaven's Dust. It's a nice throwback to the era it's drawing back. I definitely recommend it. If you're looking to buy this, it's available on PC, Switch, and on Xbox One and the series. Now, oddly enough, it's not on PlayStation at the current time of this review, and I imagine at this point, if it's not, probably not likely a high chance of it. Which is a little odd, considering it's on Xbox, but don't know. Weirder is the price. So on PC and Switch, Heaven Dust 1 is $7.99. Oddly enough, on Xbox, it's $9.99. So you're paying $10 on Xbox, oddly enough. Now, if you're wanting a DRM-free version of this game, as much as it does have an itch.io page, it is only for a demo. As far as I am aware, there is no other purchase a DRM-free version of Heaven Dust. So sadly, there are no options on that I am aware of. Is not on GOG. So it's a bit of a shame because it is a very lovely little game that I think deserves to be preserved into the future in that way, but it just is not. Overall, while a simple game at heart, for Forced Endeavor, I give it a lot of props for what it invokes. I definitely hunger for that era of horror. I was a pretty big fan of the tank style aesthetic of survival horror games. While this doesn't fulfill the tank control style of the games, everything else it retains pretty much. So it's a nice drawback from that era. And if you're hungry for stuff from that era, I definitely can recommend trying out Heaven's Dust. As I said, it does have a demo on Itch.io, so you can definitely try it on there if you're wanting to, well, demo it. So otherwise, what you see is basically what you get. Now, what would I recommend for the price of it myself? Honestly, for what you get here, I think a $10 price is fine. I think actually it's undercut just a little bit from its Switch and PC. I think $10 is a fair price for what you're getting here. I think it all is fine. $10 is a perfectly acceptable title price for a shorter game, because you're not getting obviously a super long game here. I mean, if you're familiar with titles of this era, you know a lot of survival horror games aren't usually ungodly long if you know what you're doing. You're looking at about 2 to 4 hours, depending on what you're wanting to do in this game. And if you literally want to do everything, probably a few extra hours to figure out all the few more cryptic puzzles and things and all the challenges. And quickly, Heaven Dust 1 spoilers, of course. Now, there's not a whole lot to go in here, other than a few little things like figuring out who you are. You are Steve, who you do find several notes around the mansion from. And of course, I guess you could argue the make sense-ofness of this, since, you know, you're playing as Steve, but Steve's notes have things to note, and of course a lot of his notes tell of the plot involving him in compared to what's happening at the mansion, which basically they were experimenting to make basically immortality, essentially. I guess you could also throw out like sub goals like, you know, invincibility armor and armies of invincibility. I don't know, you know, you could make a few different little things in there, but overall they were just experimenting on people, and Steve basically got wrapped up into leaking out stuff about what was going on there, the inhuman whites and stuff, which ironically led to him being found that he was actually a prime candidate for what they were experimenting on, which leads into Heaven's Dust 2. So, it's a pretty standard little story. Heaven's Dust 2 really expands more on what's going on more. But overall, it's just as it pretty much still seems. You're just trying to escape this mansion. Though in the end, though, assuming you don't get any of the bad endings, you get captured, which, oh no. Now, there is actually a good ending where you don't get captured, but sadly, that's not the canon ending that goes into Heaven's Dust 2. It's the ending where you actually escape, but you get caught. But you can find a ending where you actually escape and don't get caught, so I did get all the endings, the bad, the good, and that, but yeah, if you're gonna go with canonicity, the one getting caught on the exit is the canon ending that goes to Heaven's Dust 2, and we'll get into that when we get into Heaven's Dust 2. But yeah, that's pretty much it for spoilers on that. Overall, it's a pretty short game when you know what you're really doing in this, so like many survival horror games that draws from, ironically, of course. I think $10 is a fair price for it. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, if you have any other questions or anything, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you feel like you learned anything interesting, feel free to leave a like. you feel like you didn't learn anything interesting at all, feel free to leave a dislike, you're free. Until next time, I'll see you when we knock on the door for the sequel.